Who do the bookmakers think will be promoted and relegated from League One in the 23-24 season? Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. Today, as I say, we are looking at the Bookies League One predictions for the 2023-24 season. It's going to be interesting, guys. I have already given you my early League One predictions. Do feel free to share your predictions down below. Before we get into this video, guys, do make sure, of course, to hit that like button. We'll go for 375 likes on this one, and if we can hit that, we'll do more League One content for you. So do make sure to like and hit that subscribe button, as a massive portion of people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. So please do subscribe and show some support, and let's have a little look at who the bookmakers think are going to do what this season. So then we're going to be using a tier list just like I did for my early League One prediction video. You've got the top 6, the teams in the top half, the teams in the middle of the table, the teams surviving the drop, and the teams going down to League 2. Obviously, remember, 3 teams go up from this division, 4 teams go down from it. Let's get straight into it, working from the bottom all the way up to the top. Let's start at the rock bottom. The bookmakers think Stevenage are going to finish bottom of League One. It's quite harsh, but not always a surprise that the bookies go for teams that have come up from League 2 to go back down. Now, I think Stevenage were really good last year. They did fantastic, getting second place in a really competitive League 2. They also went on a really good FA Cup run as well, and I want them to do well in League One. I've actually tipped them to stay up, but the bookmakers think Stevenage are going down. If you are a Stevenage Borough fan, do share your thoughts on that one down below. Next up, the bookies are going for Cheltenham. Once again, seems harsh, but ultimately 4 teams do have to go down. I think picking Cheltenham isn't necessarily a surprise from the bookmakers. They'll probably look at the size of club that Cheltenham are and the fact that League One's looking very competitive next season, but I think Cheltenham have climatised very well in their recent seasons in League One, and if anything, they'll want to be looking to push up the division. But Cheltenham fans, you're going to have to prove the bookmakers wrong again if you're going to stay up, because they have put you in that bottom 4. Another team going down, the bookies have gone for, are Carlisle United. They reckon Carlisle United will be relegated. Now, once again, I did back Carlisle United to stay up when I did my early League One predictions video. I think Carlisle United had a fantastic season last year. They were competing for that top 3 in the automatics. They fell away. Their form towards the end of the season wasn't great, but they did do amazing in the playoffs to get past Bradford and Stockport, and Stockport were fancied to win that playoff final. It looks as though Carlisle United are going to have to prove the odds wrong again, as Carlisle United are being a team tipped to go down. I think there's a lot going for Carlisle United. They're a decent club. I've seen them play in League One before. They've got a fantastic fan base at Carlisle United, very passionate, and like I say, they played well together last season. We'll obviously just see what recruitment goes on at Carlisle United over the summer, but the bookmakers have them to go down. The final team then, the 4th team going down, are Burton Albion. Burton Albion are a team that have been in League One now for quite a few seasons, and they've had a few seasons where there's been near escapes, and you can maybe understand why the bookmakers think they'll go down. They're also not the biggest club in the division, but let's not take away from the fact that Burton Albion have had some very good seasons over recent years. I mean, they got to the Championship a couple seasons ago, which was incredible. The bookmakers think they're going to go down this season. Burton Albion fans, do share your thoughts on that one. I will be intrigued to see what business they do over the summer. So then, that is the 4 teams the bookmakers have gone for to go down. Let's start moving on to the teams above the bottom 4. Which teams do the bookmakers think are just going to stay up this season? Well, they're going to start off with Fleetwood Town. They think Fleetwood Town are going to survive. Now, Fleetwood Town are a team that have been in League One for quite a few years as well, and they're just a team that seem to prove a lot of people wrong. They've had some really strong seasons in League One, and for the bookmakers to put them in 20th might seem quite harsh, because they're a team that are very capable at this level. But like I say, the bookmakers don't tend to fancy the smaller teams. No disrespect to Fleetwood Town, but as you'll see when we get through this video, they do tend to back big teams to do well in pretty much every division, and that could be down to the fact that they've got more fans and therefore more people that are going to put money on these bets, for example. Fleetwood Town to stay up. Let me know if you're a Fleetwood fan, if you think that's going to come true. Let's move on to the next team. They've gone for Wigan Athletic. There they are. A really interesting one here. I do think it all comes down to how Wigan Athletic start this season, because as we know, there's a points deduction there, there's a lot of turmoil, and if they were to get off to a slow start, then I would worry for them. I would love to see them stay up. Any team that's been hit with a points deduction, I will be rooting for, as I am a Coventry fan, and my team's been hit with points deductions, and it's always the fans that suffer in these situations when they've really done nothing wrong. But we shall see. If they get off to a decent start, there's no question they could actually be quite high up the table. I won't go out there and say I think Wigan Athletic are going to finish in the top half. The bookies think they'll finish 19th, so they do think Wigan Athletic will overcome that points deduction and get over the line. We shall see. Wigan fans, do share your thoughts on that one down below. The next team they're going for are Northampton. Now, Northampton are no strangers to League One football. I am intrigued to see how they get on this time around. Obviously, it felt like they were trapped in League Two for longer than they wanted to be. There were so many close attempts at getting up, and they did finally get over the line last season in third place in League Two. They did really well, and we'll see what players they bring in. The bookmakers think that they'll just do enough to survive, but if you're a Cobblers fan, do you think you could push on and maybe be in that mid-table bracket? The bookies think you'll be in 18th place. Next up, we'll move on to 17th place, and the bookies have gone for Cambridge United. I think this is an interesting one because Cambridge United just got over the line last season. Will they use that good run of form and momentum from the end of last season going into the start of next season? Because if they do, there's every chance they could have a good season. If not, who knows? But I do think the 4 teams coming up will compete, and I think they all look quite strong coming into this division, so I don't think it'll be easy for Cambridge to stay up, but the bookmakers think they will. They've put them in 17th place. Right then, we can start pushing on into the mid-table bracket, and the bookmakers have gone for Leyton Orient to have a strong season in League One. Now, Leyton Orient, no doubt about it, were that best team in League Two last year. They smashed the division, and I'm intrigued to see how they get on. Leyton Orient's fans have been on a very emotional journey from nearly getting to the Championship to going all the way down to the National League and coming back again. Leyton Orient, no doubt about it, took League Two by storm last year. Can they do well coming up to League One? There's definitely a step up in quality, but I thought they were very good last year, and they've got a good fan base behind them. The bookmakers have put them in the middle. If you're a Leyton Orient fan, would you take that? Do you think that's a good season, or are you looking further up the table? Are you feeling greedy? We shall see. There's a few more teams in the middle of the table here from the bookmakers. The next team they've gone for are Shrewsbury Town. Now, Shrewsbury were actually more in the top half last season. They were on the cusp of the playoffs. The bookmakers think there will be a little drop off here from Shrewsbury Town, which will be interesting to see. I am hoping to go to Shrewsbury Town versus Coventry City in July, which is a pre-season game, and I'll get to actually see a bit of Shrewsbury Town. I haven't really seen them since my team played in League One. Obviously, I do know that they've got a few former Coventry City players there, and their recruitment does look sensible. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Shrewsbury Town in the top half again. The bookmakers have put them pretty much in the middle. Another team in the middle of the table the bookmakers have gone for are Port Vale. Now, Port Vale finishing in the middle of the table would be a bit of an improvement on last year. They were in the middle of the table for most of the season, and then they just sort of fell off in the last few games, but they stayed up all right in the end anyway. When I did my early League One predictions a few weeks ago, I think I put Port Vale in the middle of the table as well, and I don't think they're going to be in any danger of going down. I think this club is going to be okay. It seems as if this club is back on its feet after being in League Two a couple of seasons ago, and hopefully for their fans they can start looking up the table. They put them right in the middle, and I think that's probably about right for Port Vale. If you're a Port Vale fan, do let me know down below. I do know that Port Vale have got passionate fans, and they've got a good team there, so we shall see what they do, but we still need to see what their business is going to look like before the ball gets kicked in August. The final team in the middle of the table the bookmakers have gone for are Lincoln City. In my opinion, I think over the last few years, Lincoln City have probably been one of the hardest teams to predict in this division. I think if you put them in the middle, you can't go too far wrong. They've had a couple seasons where they've pushed towards the playoffs. I mean, they got to the playoff final a couple seasons ago as well. But Lincoln City fans, do feel free to share your thoughts and expectations for this season. I am intrigued to see. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens at the very start of the season. Then we can probably make a better judgment on which direction they're going to be going in this year. Let's move on into the top half then. So in 12th place, the bookmakers have gone for Exeter City. Now, for me, Exeter City are a strong League One side. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we saw them pushing for the playoffs. We saw that a bit in the previous 22-23 season, and who knows, if they get a good run going, if they get off to a good start to the season, if they've built their team up nicely and they've got goal scorers at the front, I think there's every chance Exeter City could be pushing towards the top 6. I think we've seen League One look a lot harder than it does this season. I think the teams coming up look strong. I'm not too sure about the teams coming down. I do think there is an opportunity here for Exeter City to make a better fist of a playoff push. We shall see. Let's keep moving on. Into 11th place, we've got Bristol Rovers. This is an interesting one. I put Bristol Rovers in the top half as well. The only thing I'm a little bit sceptical of Bristol Rovers is the consistency. I feel like we saw a very good side to Bristol Rovers last season, a side that wasn't a million miles away from the playoffs about halfway through the season. They ended the season not great. They sort of slipped down a little bit, but I think coming into this season, it's going to sound obvious, but I think Bristol Rovers, if they get off to a good start, could stand themselves in very good stead. As I say, I think they could be another team that's pushing towards the playoffs. If you're a Gas fan, do let me know your thoughts down below. I've said before how much I rate Bristol Rovers fans. They could make the difference this year, who knows. As we move closer to the playoffs, we have got Wycombe Wanderers. The bookies have put Wycombe to be in that playoff chase again. It does feel as if Wycombe are now accustomed to being a top half League One side, which is great to see. I mean, when they got up to the Championship, that was a great story, but I don't think it's impossible we could see a return for Wycombe Wanderers to the Championship. They've been flirting with the playoffs over the last 2 seasons. I mean, they got to the playoff final and missed out to Sunderland 2 seasons ago now. Last season, they missed out on the playoffs and they did lose the manager, Gareth Ainsworth. I do think there's going to be some rebuilding going on this summer, but I don't think it's a totally bad prediction here from the bookmakers to put Wycombe Wanderers just around the playoff picture. Do let me know your thoughts on that one once again if you're a Wycombe Wanderers fan. Let's move on to 9th place now as we get even closer to the playoffs. The bookmakers think Oxford United are going to make a better fist of a playoff push this season. I mean, we can't even say there was a playoff push last season. It was literally just get over the line, and they did get over the line, and maybe now going into the new season, everyone starts afresh on 0 points. Maybe Oxford United could be around the playoffs. Once again, it could all come down to the players they bring through the door, but the bookmakers do think Oxford United will improve drastically this season, and they've put them to finish in 9th place, which is interesting. Okay, then on to 8th place, and the bookmakers have gone for Charlton Athletic. As I've just said for the other teams that are in this top half bracket, I think this is a really big season with an opportunity for one of these sides to get in there that haven't done so over the previous seasons. Charlton Athletic, for me, obviously I remember them as a Premier League club. I think they've got a fantastic fan base and the Valley is one of my favourite stadiums. I always say the same sort of things with Charlton Athletic, but the reality is over the last couple of years they've just been a very mid-table League One side. Don't get me wrong, in terms of the potential this club has, it could definitely push towards the Championship, and that's something I'd really want to see. They did go on a good cup run last year actually, to be fair. Who knows? The bookmakers think they'll finish 8th. As I say, they do tend to like the bigger clubs, and Charlton Athletic certainly are a big club at this level. Will Charlton sneak into the playoffs? The bookmakers think they'll be close. Let me know your thoughts. On to 7th place, the final team just missing out on the playoffs, Portsmouth. It was very close though. I've looked at a few bookies predictions and it's between Portsmouth and the next team we'll come on to. I've put Portsmouth in my top 6 for this season. Once again, they're a big club for this level and they certainly should be pushing towards the top 6. Portsmouth have definitely seen good opportunities to get back to the Championship come and go, and over the last couple of years they haven't been as good as where they were, say, in 2019 and 2020, where in those seasons they were certainly a lot closer to the playoffs. It'll certainly be interesting to see if Portsmouth can get in there. As I say, I think this is a massive opportunity for teams to go up. I do think this is probably the most open we've ever seen League One. The bookies have put Portsmouth in 7th, but like I say, a few bookies have actually got Portsmouth in 6th place, so pretty much just on the edges of the playoffs. That next team then are Blackpool. As I say, I've looked at a few bookies predictions and a few of them have Portsmouth in 6th. A few of them have Blackpool in 6th. It certainly looks close. I do think both sides could be in the playoffs this season. That's certainly not impossible. I think Blackpool are a team that obviously know how to get promoted from this level. As we say though, they do need a rebuilding job this summer because they came down from the Championship with a bit of a whimper. I expect to see some key players go, but obviously Blackpool fans will be hoping that they bring some good players in to replace players that are going to be going out. So we shall see. Blackpool do need a bit of a pick-me-up. I think their fans have obviously suffered quite a bit over the years. It was great to see them back in the Championship, but it's now back to square one. Can they get back to the Championship at the first time of asking? On to 5th place, the bookmakers have gone for Peterborough. I've seen a few Peterborough United fans conflicted on this one. I personally think Peterborough United will be in that top 6. A lot of people will expect to see Peterborough United lose a lot of their goal scorers this season because they were certainly prolific at times last season and yeah, did amazing to get to the League One playoffs. It'll be interesting to see what they do this time around. As we say, they're another club that know how to get promoted from this division, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see if Peterborough United can recover from what was obviously one of the most painful ways to miss out on a League One player final. Probably the most painful way to miss out. We shall see. Will they sink? Will they swim? The bookmakers think they'll swim back to the playoffs. Okay, on to the top 4 then, and we've got Barnsley coming up next in the bookmakers' predictions. They've put Barnsley to finish exactly where they finished last season, which seems reasonable. Even before a ball has been kicked, I do feel Barnsley are a team I'm fairly confident should be in that top 6, at least 6th at a minimum this season. Another club that knows how to get promoted from this division. I feel like they've been up and down from League One and Championship quite a few times over the years. But yeah, it seems as if they've got a stable footing compared to some of the other clubs and obviously some bigger resources as well. I think Barnsley played some fantastic football last year and once again, so painful to miss out the way they did in the playoff final. But We'll see. I think Barnsley did show some good signs last season, and I think them being in the top 4 again is very realistic. I wouldn't entirely be surprised if we saw Barnsley in the top 2 though, I must say. On to 3rd place, and the bookmakers have gone for Reading. Now, Reading's one I'm really struggling with here because we haven't seen Reading play at this level in a long time. It's going to be interesting. I think what Reading fans will probably agree with me here saying is a lot of it's going to come down to what work they do in the summer. I think a team that's just been relegated from a division trying to get back at the first attempt, and Reading do need to get back at the first attempt. They don't want to become stuck in League One. I think they need to bring in the right players to play at this level, the right players to get goals at this level. They need to have the right management set up going into the new season. And yeah, if they get those things right, I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see Reading up there as well. On to the top 2 then, and it's the playoff semi-finalist losers. In 2nd place, they've gone for Bolton Wanderers. Now, Bolton are a team certainly going in the right direction. I think they've been on a good journey as well. I know this is quite an age-old saying now, but I do think some clubs need to go down a division or 2 to really bounce back and get themselves into a better position than they were before. And I think Bolton Wanderers are an example of that. As someone who supports Coventry City, who is obviously a former Premier League team, just like Bolton, we went down to League 2, and it felt like the end of the world when all the things going wrong off the pitch, but you do finally start to get your footing and build your way back up, and look at us, you know, we're pushing towards the Premier League. And honestly, I do think Bolton Wanderers will get to that stage at some point. Whether they get promoted this season or next, I do think Bolton Wanderers are going to return to the Championship, and once you get to the Championship, the Premier League is not out of the question. So Bolton Wanderers fans, do certainly share your thoughts on this one. Will you keep up your decent trajectory? We shall see. On to the top team then, and it is Derby County. Derby fans, definitely get your thoughts in on this one. I certainly think Derby County will be pushing. I think they'll want to put things right after finishing 7th last year. I think at times last season they actually played some really good football, and I was surprised that they missed out in the end because they were quite comfortable in the playoffs and they just started to slip, and Peterborough United pipped them to it. But I think coming into this new season, there definitely should be some room for optimism for the Derby County fans. Will they spend well? Will they bring in the right players to get them up through the division? I think it's just about tweaking things a little bit. I do think they've got some players there that are probably going to be right for another push towards the Championship this season, so we shall see. Derby County fans, do share your thoughts. The bookmakers are tipping you to win the league, and not entirely against that. I do think Derby will certainly be somewhere in that top 6. I think the top 2 is definitely on. So then guys, that wraps up the bookmakers predictions. Do let me know your thoughts if you're a League One fan. Where do you think your team's going to finish this season, and where do you think everyone else is going to finish this season? Do make sure, of course, as I say, to hit that like button, and do subscribe if you haven't already for more League One content. I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.